is not necessarily those of the Emily Pearl Show, its sister stations, its affiliates, or its sponsors, but it is those of the individuals themselves who express it. While the Emily Pearl Show does take stances on individual issues, the show itself remains an entertainment platform. Free thought is a philosophy and not a policy.
All right, everybody. Hello there. Hello there. Welcome to Pearl's Politics. What's the word, Thunderbirds? All right, how y'all doing out there? Listen, we're gonna have a great show for you tonight. I don't know why my chair scooched down so low. Oh wow, this is funny. Okay, of course we have a regular panel in, which I'm gonna bring in um, shortly, very shortly, and then we have surprise regular host. She's a host on our other two shows, but she normally doesn't come into our politics show. All right, and then we have our special guest. So I'm just gonna bring them on in according to the way I normally do, y'all. Go ahead and share the show. And I'm going to be popping in and out because I didn't get a chance to share to some places that I want to share it to. By bringing in co-host, the heartbeat of the South, y'all, and my every heartbeat. My son, Tim Harrington. Hey, Tim.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
All right, all right, all right. Where's the mouth of the South go? She was in here. All right, so the mouth of the South, I think she said she was trying to travel too. She's on the road trying to be on the show at the same time. But so let me bring in the surprise host that we have that y'all do know. The co-hostess of the Moses, none other than Sybil Marie Presley. Hi, Sybil.
Hey Sybil.
Well,
How you
hello
doing?
there. I'm a,
Awesome, awesome.
I'm happy to pop into Pearl's Politics.
Yeah, this will
We
be
have a
new for you.
special surprise.
Yeah, this will be very new for you. All
Yeah.
right, so we have our special guest. We're not going to waste any time and go ahead on and take y'all out of agony wondering who it is. Most of you already know Sybil. Can you give us a little bit of intro? Let me get the drum roll going first. We got a drum roll. Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Well, again, welcome to Pearl's Politics. And we have a special guest tonight, the Honorable Judge Joe Brown. And he is campaigning for mayor of Memphis. Welcome to Pearl's Politics.
Hello, welcome,
Sir,
Joe.
ladies, how are you?
Hello.
Or let me
All
reverse
right,
that. Ladies, sir.
All
all
right.
right.
There's only one
Thank
of
you
you,
so
so I
much.
got to you first. Easier to go to the next two. Plus, they're
Understood.
prettier than you are, so
Absolutely.
there you go.
Thank you
Lady,
so much for joining us tonight.
for my
This
pleasure.
is
Too bad it's
uh,
not Friday night, so I could have a date, but it's
oh my
what it
goodness.
is.
Well, I think we have a date tomorrow at lunch, don't we?
That's right, but that's
We sure
daytime.
do.
Yeah, we do.
Sun's down, it's night.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
yes.
this
Sybil.
isn't the place it seems to be out after dark these days. Something's happened to the city. What went wrong? Anyway, I think we're probably going to get into that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we
are.
sure are. And that's a great segue to get into the program. So we can start off by you saying, what are your thoughts about police reform?
Well, the usual thing runs the gamut from absolutely ridiculous suggestions to defund the police to more civilian oversight. My suggestion is to totally revise the police structure so instead of having civilian oversight, it's under civilian control. Now, what does that look like? Just like the U.S. Department of Defense. You've got a commander in chief who is a civilian, that's the president. You have a civilian secretary of defense, one over the Army, Navy, Air Force, etc., subsecretaries and such like. And I think that's needed in American policing, and we might as well start here in Memphis since this is a place where it could happen. Why do we need that? Well, the whole police model, some say, is based on what Sir Robert Peel came up with back in the early 19th century in England, and they call it today Scotland Yard. And that was an aristocratic thing where there is a know everything, all wise aristocrat in charge of what happened to
Yes.
everybody else, who knew all the ins and outs and would see that
Yeah.
certain people were protected, their
Mm-hmm.
dignities reserved, and such like, and everybody else just get out of the way. Now,
Yes.
that spread to Boston and then New York City late 1830s and 1840s. And before that, America did not have police.
Right.
That's true.
So that's a fairly new invention. So we need to take it away from the British model and give it back to the police. This is not an aristocratic nation, or at least it's not supposed to be, but it ought to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people, and the police are the people.
That's true.
And we have a situation where we could be drawing the future police from the neighborhood, and a lot of them these days do come, but they suffer from some of the ills that all of the young people are suffering. And we have, I guess, let the side down by not seeing that certain things happen in this city and it didn't get conveyed to the youth. And we have forgotten all about character and the importance of
Mhm.
duty, honor, obligation, accountability, responsibility, etc., public peace, dignity, and order. They fly out the window someplace, and anything and everything counts. And some of our preachers have forgotten what it is to preach about sin. So
I know,
we
right?
don't hear that, and you certainly don't get it into public schools anymore. You
Mm-mm.
don't get it
Right.
in the streets. You don't get it from the elected and appointed representatives in this city. And I see ineptitude, and I always wanted to be this, but not knowing how to, no preparation to be, and it's generally a sad picture.
Right.
So somebody needs to come in here who can lead the people so the people get excited and enthused and not just sit at a desk with no clue as to what to do and say, I'm going to come up with a program or a commission or a committee to study it. And then you turn everything over to bureaucrats who don't have a clue, and you bring together a committee that nobody has ever heard of to do something that stays on a back burner forever, and there are no changes. And the young people look at the individuals at the top who seem to have a proclivity for finding ways for the public dollar to go under, sometimes over the table.
Right.
And there's no calculus done to see what the output of the city's tax dollars are doing in terms of generating a future, generating a present that is well employed, safe, prosperous, with some sense of purpose, and an excitement about doing things. This is not done.
Right.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. I love the way you brought in the history about the aristocracy. They had constables, back then. So you're exactly right. And when those people came over here and discovered the New World, it was so ironic to me. And when I study history, I love history. I love politics. The same thing, very things that they were running from the Queen and the families of the aristocracies over there. They wanted to be free. They didn't want slavery. They wanted higher pay. They come over here to the New World and did the exact same things that they were running away from and enforce it and put it in place in this country. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yes, we get this attitude that washes over here. I say, Lord Bullington, has here been able to get a handle on this problem we have here? The hard help is just so difficult to find these days, and it's so problematic, and the lower classes, they get so heathenish down there in their areas. It's just not seeming, something needs to be done to put them in order.
Yeah.
That's not the way we are here, or it shouldn't be, but
Here, oh boy. Yeah,
I said that, something needs to be done.
Yeah, you're gonna be my next British judge in my movie when I start my series back. Okay, I love that. All right, Tim, can you find a question in there? I think you found one.
Let's see.
Oh, wait a minute. We got two from the audience. Let's do the
Okay.
members.
Okay.
Audience members first. Okay, we got Ernestine. She's from Michigan. And she says, "Good evening, Judge Joe Brown. So excited to see you on here. I watched a lot of your shows."
Good.
She,
I'm glad you feel that way. I hope I was both entertaining and enlightening.
that's true. And she has people here in Memphis, family down here in Memphis, so she can definitely talk to them about you. We have Ed, another out of towner. He says, "I would love to hear what the judge thinks about the recent balloon over our nation."
Well, what I think is probably going on is the balloon was up there to collect electronic information. One of them, the first one we paid attention to, was hovering over Montana, where the Air Force has its long range bomber bases, missile silos, and a lot of transmission um, apparatus, including the Navy's ultra low frequency radio transmitters. And I'm sure they were absorbing the signals that they couldn't get clearly due to atmospherics over in China or off the coast. They were also probably studying the Doppler frequencies and shift modulations for purposes, and perhaps they gave Beijing, Biden permission to shoot them down after they were no longer useful, or they had absorbed all they wanted, and they were also testing to see what kind of detection apparatus the U.S. was using to fix their locations. And it's absolutely absurd for that to happen. China would have surely shot something down if we had sent it over there. So
Yeah, I
let's
was
start
like,
saying,
why did
hey
it stay
guys,
that long? Yeah.
we stabilize your currency because you won't keep control of it. We keep down worldwide inflation that you initiate a lot of the times. They control most of the world stock exchanges, including Wall Street, because they are a sovereign investor. And what happens is the whole government buys stocks, bonds, securities, and interest in things. And what happens is they can outbuy just anybody. So what they occasionally do is, when we get out of control, is say, hey, go check out the actual ownership of the stocks involved with this subsidiary corporation, that one and that one and that one, that holds a small majority of the stock interest in this particular corporate entity. And you'll find we do. So straighten up. You need to do better. You see, we have a nasty secret in America. We are the only industrialized nation that does not have a coherent plan to deal with the building obsolescence of your typical laborer. So labor is like a commodity. What do you do when you have a glut in a commodity, whether it's corn, beef, pork, poultry, soy? Well, basically three things: cut back production, subsidize the producer, and store the surplus. We store our surplus in a jail cell, not a grain silo.
Right.
That's right.
We subsidize this with an assistance check, not just to bail somebody out of some immediate problem, but on a generational basis. And cut back of the production is the foolishness that we have, where the kids get the wrong ideas about things. They don't dress appropriately. They have wrong ideation, wrong lifestyles. They drop out, bang out, drug out, get pregnant too early, too often. They develop inappropriate attitudes. They're inappropriately prepared vocationally to earn a living. They don't have the academic skills to get further, and they carry themselves wrong, and they make where they live chaotic so that the areas cannot engage in cohesive political activity for self-help. Right. And when they get that first felony, they go to jail, not for their free labor, but to keep them from laboring.
Yes.
And that's $1 trillion high growth industry nationally. And in Memphis, it is very big, because we need to understand one thing about this area. Shelby County has more people confined inside it than any other county in the entirety of the United States of America.
Right.
I had the grand jury look into it in 1965 to see what they came up with in 1995. See what they got in 1994. I was over the grand jury as the supervising judge, and they went into everything. And there is a huge industry on the following: providing food, clothing, shelter, supervision, transportation, and communication for inmates. They do put them to work, but not for free labor. It's just, what is the old proverb? Idle minds mischief makes. So you want to keep them occupied.
Right.
Now, that saying That's why we have this schoolhouse to jailhouse pipeline, because we don't have any coherent programs to deal with.
Right.
That's
I
right.
remember back in the 80s, I was part of a legal team and we visited a large sports entity
Mhm.
upriver, and they had 4,500 employees on 3 shifts. I went there some decade later in the mid 90s to address a community forum, and the same business was a sponsor. When I went in the warehouse, this huge 6-block long warehouse did not have 4,500 employees. It had about 120 some, and they were security and people managing the computers for the totally automated operation. So what happened to the other 4,450 people that were out of a job?
Right.
Well, bye, sucker. You've been working here 19 years, 23 years, 7 years, loyally and efficiently, but somebody here wants to be a billionaire before they get 50. So for corporate profitability, bye-bye, here's your pink slip. Too bad about your mortgage, car note, putting money away for your children, your savings, your medical insurance, and all of the other things that we need. You're on your own. And then what you get is Timothy McVeigh types who get really angry about it, and they buy $200 worth of ammonium nitrate fertilizer you can get practically anywhere. And he blew up a courthouse in Oklahoma City.
Right.
So you don't want to talk about that. And what you put out in front of the public is, instead of we need good character, we need to teach our children duty, honor, obligation, responsibility, where it is a person's duty to make where they live a better, safer, more secure place, filled with economic prosperity, sense of purpose, morality, and ethics. And oh, by the way, the people that are visible, that run stuff, ethics is not in their name. So some of our elected and appointed officials are very good, but too many are not, and they get relatively low paying jobs that they spend a lot more getting elected to or getting appointed to than they're ever going to make out of the job. But that gives them input into other things, and the city has been spending a lot of money for the wrong kind of things.
Right.
For example, there's a certain area where they wanted to, this has been 35 years ago, and everybody that was involved is now deceased. But what it was is a developer was coming up with a large scale development, and by law, this person would have had to have donated part of their property for road usage. The roads had to be a certain specified width, and the person was supposed to build the road. But what they wanted was, instead of having to just donate the land and pay for building the roads, they wanted the city to exercise eminent domain and the city build the road so they get paid for it, not have to do it. Now, how did they do this? There was a right angle stop sign controlled intersection going into this development. They sold it, the city sold it to him for $13,600. 3 months later, he sold it back to the city for $6.8 million. That $6.8 million got split. It was tax money. He didn't even have to come out with that out of his own pocket. The city exercised eminent domain, confiscated the property, and paid for the road building instead of the other way around. See, that's out of date, but that's how it works. You've got properties that the city sells to people and then rents it back for almost as much per month as the individual paid for it.
Right.
Look at what's happening with the fairgrounds, where they are potentially to be operated by a nonprofit that is chartered for the purpose of operating city parks. And you're going to take this football stadium and convert it to a soccer arena for an already committed.
I know, right?
$750 million already. It's to be replaced by a $2.5 billion football stadium. And you're taking the Mid-South Coliseum, where some of us may remember going to concerts and
Yeah.
R&B or country and western or whatever, and they're going to turn it into what I think is an opera house. So that's another $500 million. So what do the taxpayers get out of it? Well, they're trying to turn it into an upscale, restricted access community.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, downtown, somebody wants to improve the city skyline. So to the tune of $250 million, we're going to subsidize an international hotel chain expanding its downtown hotel. I thought capitalism was about the private business using its own capital to do these things. Meanwhile, there's an 18.7% minority set aside. And when you look at what happens, somebody's already got 3.7% of that tied up who's pushing it. So why do we need to pay for that? And what's the calculus downtown? Well, the skyline would look better, but we can't even see that for most of the city.
Right.
Meanwhile, what are we doing getting in that? Meanwhile, let's go a few blocks over. You remember where the Greyhound bus depot was?
Yes, sir.
Would you imagine that the city sold 25 acres centered on that to somebody for just $600,000? And we've committed another $250 million to turning it into a restricted access place where there will be 28 luxury units and some boutique shops to service it. Meanwhile, they're trying to further restrict parking downtown so the rest of us can't go down there. And they say, take public transportation.
Right.
Now, where most of the rest of us live, where is the public transportation? So you want to go down to one of these upscale restaurants and businesses downtown or Beale Street? Does
Mhm.
that mean you are supposed to take a bus from wherever you live? Where is the bus where you live? All right. So what are they doing with this? Are they gentrifying downtown and at great taxpayers' expense, turning it into something that the rest of us don't share in? And meanwhile, not only did they divest us of this 25 acres of prime downtown property,
Mhm.
we wound up committing another $250 million so the private developer can develop it. So what are we doing here? And
Right.
then is the same entity that now has that acreage on Union Avenue where Nathan Bedford Forest used to be. Oh, the statue's down, but who got paid $5,000 a month to store it,
I know.
along
Right.
with
Right.
Jeff Davis? Okay, whose sister helped introduce the resolution on the county commission, who, by the way, is running for mayor right now, is operating that private nonprofit that he incorporated, and he also introduced the legislation for us to sell with no bid. You know that park down there on Union Avenue. You know how
Right.
much the city
Across
sold
from
it
you.
to his company for? $2,500. He
Wow.
can't
Yeah, I
sell it.
remember hearing that.
But Le Bonheur Methodist, Baptist hospitals, UT Medical School, they want to put a big hotel where that park is that's rumored to be costing so far $1.5 billion. And guess who's going to be collecting the rent through the nonprofit? And then don't forget the other 2,500 acres down there next to the Metal Museum on the bluff.
Right.
Same entity looks like they're going to be operating what used to be the fairgrounds. Who's getting what in this? And by the way, a challenge to any leadership: if you want to lead this town, you need to be able to walk any place in town.
Right.
That's true.
Starts
That's true.
getting dark without a police escort and come back out alive or in whole
Yeah. That's
sound
respect.
mind, sound peace.
Right.
That's
Right.
But
Yeah.
Josh, let's get to some of the comments from our audience. Mary says, yes, it's such a pleasure and an honor. I have also watched many of your shows. Memphis people are so blessed to have you looking out for their best interest. Then we have a comment from Joe, no, Ed Waters. He says, we need a new Joe in the high office. When are you running?
Right now.
Right.
JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown and take back your town. See?
All right. All right.
And by the way, if you want to see what my style is going to be, you already know. You've been watching it for 15 years and another 8 years of reruns
Right.
every day. So
Right.
I was in your house for 15 years. Thank you very much. That was interesting. But that's how things are supposed to be run. See, the leader is supposed to say, follow me. This is where we're going. And
That's
people are
right.
supposed to say, wow, I'm enthused. Now what do we do? Like, oh, man, what?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yes, Judge.
really?
Let me thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to accommodate us today. I have a question for you. Do you have any comments about how the current mayor and the police chief have run the city and the police?
May I suggest strongly to everybody to find out why she got demoted, fired in Atlanta, and then after going through the same civil service process these fired officers are going through in this latest debacle, got rehired.
Right.
Find out why the individual she was protecting got a 10-year federal sentence, and then find out why something like that happened in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, and find out why our mayor recruited her to be the first civil service chief in 41 years who is subject to retention by civil service process and cannot be fired at will by the mayor like
Wow.
a director can be. Wyatt Chandler was the last mayor to endure a civil service chief, and I talked to him at some great length once I became a judge too, talked about it. He said it was no way to keep control of the police department because absent culpable misbehavior, you couldn't get rid of a chief. You can sign contracts for 1, 2, 3 years, but that's just for rate of pay. That is not when it comes around to dealing with it. And there are a number of fine black women, white women, who are even some Hispanic women on the Memphis Police Department who have demonstrated command ability and authority who could have been put in that position.
Right.
So
Right.
the question is interesting. I'm seeing a classic propaganda thing where somebody says, okay, this is what the problem is. So you express what the problem is, but you say it in such a way that it doesn't reach you because it goes all the way to the top. Who imposed this on us? Who approved this to our detriment? And who did they bring in charge? And by the way, this unit is 3 years old. It used to be known as Blue Crush before somebody for showpiece changed it to the Scorpion unit. Meanwhile, why do you have 22, 23-year-old young men who were selected for their aggressiveness without any supervision and control? Meanwhile, when you look at the videos, the 4 of them, you get escalation. Do you see that? Do you see 0 to 60? You see 60 miles an hour straight out. So
Right.
if you're in the criminal justice, like I've been for the last half century, you go, oh, something's behind this. It seems like it. Maybe it is, maybe not. What is it? And if there's something behind it, as a criminal court judge, first thing that goes on in my mind, somebody planned this. Did they plan to kill somebody or maybe just beat somebody up?
Right.
It went wrong because of somebody's particular conditions, which means that used to be called premeditation, which means not second degree, first degree murder.
Exactly.
And even if it's not that, it becomes homicide in the perpetration of a designated felony, aggravated assault. That's first degree murder too. So I've been around here 50 years. I think this is the fastest indictment I have ever seen.
Sure.
And remember, that used to be my business every day of the week,
Right.
all week long, all year long. I was in 201 Poplar the first day they opened for business. And before that, I had been the public defender for the city of Memphis, the chief public defender. And before that, I'd been the first black prosecutor the city hired way back when. So I've never seen anything like this.
Right.
So I come in and say, is somebody just trying to be politically correct? Hey, slow down. You can get an arrest warrant if you really want to take somebody in custody, go through the whole preliminary hearing process, and let's deal with it that way. And if your investigation comes up with something else, then after you've had a chance to go over it, digest it, analyze it, then you can submit it for indictment and everybody will be satisfied if you're just trying to be politically correct. But as the late Johnny Cochran said, a rush to justice is not an effective thing. Next point is, what do we do to change that? Does anybody have any organizational plan? Yes, I do. We need a director or commissioner of police, a civilian, over this whole operation under the mayor, who will be responsive to the mayor. That will be a civilian. We could be a former cop. It could be a fire chief or fireman. It could be a good citizen. It could be anybody that has organizational and administrative skills with leadership. Follow me.
Correct.
Next, we have a civilian head of homicide, uniform patrol, traffic, sex crimes, juvenile matters, 9 yards. We have communication set up so that we have block captains to involve people in this process, so you can go directly to dispatcher without having to go through 911.
Yes.
We can have that kind of thing. Radio protocols. We can involve some of the marginal youth into this process, and I've had some amazing results with taking young men on the cusp of becoming thug and training them and giving them some authority, and you can see how law and order they are. Why don't we investigate taking back some control of the city aspect of the County Board of Education, since we put the lion's share of the money into it?
Yes.
And
Right.
one of the things I noticed that has been effective, including at my alma mater, which is not in this city, but it's there now, is to have what they call student courts, where juveniles who have certain kind of minor problems, they're brought in front of juvenile juries, juvenile judges under the supervision of actual judges, and matters disposed of that way. You've got Judge Tariq Sugarman, who used to be the public defender in my court for 10 years
Okay.
at one point, down over in juvenile court. And I'm looking forward to great things from him. And we can work up a program where the police, instead of immediately charging first, second offender juveniles, they get them under a contract with the parent or parents. And the deal is, you go through character development, you go through vocational skills training and academic uplifting. And if you complete the program, then the charges just start profiting. You keep them out of the system and you train them with something. Now,
That's right.
background on that that's interesting. Myself and two friends, one of whom, well, I called him my brother since we looked alike. He's just a bigger addition. For the last 55 years. He died last year, but he was a great martial artist, but he was a PhD, and so did the other guy become a PhD, great martial artist. We had a playground in the Los Angeles City School at a place called Trinity Avenue Elementary School, which before we got there was notorious for being the worst environment in an elementary school in the whole LA City school system. We turned it around, and as an example of what you can do, two of our students, I bet you know. One of them was the late singer Barry White, who was a skinny little 12-year-old when we had him on the playground, and we worked with him and his mother, and he became Barry White. The other one we worked with, he was a year and a half older. He became one of our student volunteers. He was a brilliant kid with great ethics, and he wrote 6 children's books. But that didn't get him a commutation of his death penalty, and he became the last person executed on California's death row. We tried to work with him, but his mother wanted that check, and she wouldn't let him out of the swamps. He just became the baddest alligator in it. His name was Tookie Williams, and he helped co-found the Crips. So that was a half century plus ago, and all of us involved have learned from that. I'm scoutmaster, substitute teacher, junior high and high school, college professor, adjunct professor at Memphis State Law School at one time, 30 years ago. I mean, there are a lot of things you can do when you deal with youth to inspire them so they have a cause. When you give
That's
youth
right.
a cause, then they have something to look forward to. And when things are bleak, they don't give up. They say, I can fight through this. I'm looking in the mirror and I see what I see, me. And it looks back at me and it says, dude, did you do what you were supposed to do yesterday? Are you going to do it today? Are you going to prepare today to be better at it tomorrow? And even if everything seems like it is totally out of the picture, you have a cause. It doesn't make any difference whether you're white, black, brown, red, yellow. You have a purpose.
Right.
And when
That's
you
right.
have a purpose, everything that a lot of the kids today just give up on and want to go sit on a couch and smoke a blunt, play vid games, well, that's just adversity. It's to be
Right.
conquered. And like I told one guy one time, he said, Judge, I ain't going to make it until I'm 24. I said, well, then since you're already dead, you'll make a good hero. And if daylight at the end of your tunnel, you can be the one to slay the fire-breathing Gila monsters that are setting fire to the place so the people that you ought to feel responsible for can get to the end of the tunnel. Now,
That's right.
how does this work in the real world? Well, over a 10-year period, out of the 16 I got elected to serve, got elected twice by the people. Over this 10-year period, the statewide recidivism rate started at 80%. It was 80% at the end. That means somebody convicted of a felon, 80% chance they'll be back again with another one. Well, in my courtroom, it dropped down to 18%. And if you walk around town with me, in fact, this restaurant we're talking about going to tomorrow, well, there's some people there that I locked up in jail. And some of them walked over and talked to me last week. Judge, you remember me? And I always said, no. You gave me time. Did I give you enough? Yeah, it was that thing about, doing what I was supposed to do and why. And how I was getting chumped off going.
Oh, we lost him. Okay, back.
You're back.
Okay.
You need your volume back on. Let me see where your volume is. Okay. I tell you what, we're going to take a break while you're doing that.
Okay.
And don't y'all go away. Yeah, we're going to take a break and hear from our partners, Judge. Okay? I'm going to put everybody in the green room. And that'll give the judge a chance to get him some water. And you guys. People off of here. Okay, I was just trying to get me on here, okay? So you guys, look, thank you guys so much for your comments. As soon as we come back from break, I'm going to read those off to the judge, okay? But stick and stay, don't go away. To take this time to also share the show if you're not going to eat your snack, okay? And we'll be back. Stay tuned.
I like to be what I am not. I should know better why not. Life is mine, it's a fact. I like to be what I am not. I should know better why not. Life is mine, it's a fact. Wake up in the morning and I picture myself flying in the sky. 'Cause I'm a bird, it's not a lie. And now that I'm diving through the oceans of my dreams, I want them so bad to become reality. I'm a daydreamer. I'm a daydreamer. I'm a daydreamer. I'm a daydreamer.
Welcome to the Shack 12 Week Shred. My name is Rock Shabazz, and I'm here to take you through the same program that I made for this guy right here.
This program is without a doubt a huge reason why I was able to get fit and stay fit. If you put in the work and stay consistent, you just might be able to keep up. It's time for you to get to work.
What am I gonna get? Ooh, cherries. Oh, okay. How about cherry ice cream? With sprinkles? And maybe a baguette. And a French boy. Bonjour. Ooh la la, baby. You know what I need? Bath bombs. Bombs away! Gotta have Takis. Oh, I need balls. Okay, I'm gonna need some glue. Oh, and a new charger. I can never find those things. And I gotta get flowers for mommy. And a little something for me. Can I get a robe?
All right, we are back. Thank you guys for sticking around. Remember, you can see all of our partners are on one page, the website, which is wlo.link/@Emily Pearls. You will find all of our partner offers there. Make sure that you go and check it out because y'all know Valentine's is next week. I think it's next Tuesday. All right. So go and check out our partners. Do something new. Give a different kind of gift, okay, than what y'all been given. And you can find that at our partner links. Also, if you have not watched, and even if you have watched it, watch it again. My movie is showing on Tubi.com. You can find it on Roku, however y'all want to pronounce it. Okay. The Roku channel, all you have to do is add Plex, Plex, to your Roku channels, and that's where you'll see it. And Plex TV does have its own streaming platform and also has its own app, just like Tubi.com, TV streaming platforms. And you can go and watch my movie, M Pearls, AAL, the movie. All right. Also, it's on Apple TV too. And of course, I can't get Apple TV because I don't like iPhones. Oops. I guess I should have said that, huh? Well, anywho, all right, let me bring everybody back into the studio. Excuse me. There's
Welcome
Tim.
back.
Now, excuse me, y'all. I tell you, this cold weather, hot weather, cold weather, hot weather has me all stuffed up, okay? All right, welcome back, Doris. Let me read the comments to you from our audience before we get started on any more questions. Okay, so we have Empress. Renee, hi, Empress. She was on our show last night as a guest. Was that last night? Tuesday night. Tuesday night. Okay, and she says people better start paying more attention. And Ed Waters says this is the type of leadership the nation needs. Truth over fiction. It's time for the good people to stand up and start doing something. And there was one other one I think I may not have read before that. It's scrolling up. Okay. One of our other host is having technical difficulties. Oh, here she is now. Hey, Jen,
Okay.
you made it in?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, that's great, great, great. Let me get that off of your face there. Hold on. There she is. All right, y'all.
There
She's
you
been
are.
she's
Hi,
had
Jen.
technical
Hey, hey.
difficulties. This is Jenny Hill,
Hi.
and she
Uh,
is now for the South from Alabama. Hey, Jen, so glad you could make it with us tonight. All right.
oh man, it's been a tour.
I see. I
uh,
see. You had so much trouble. And I
oh
think that
yeah.
was the last comment that we had from our audience. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, Sassy Sandra says hello, Judge Brown. And okay, so private chat, if you click on that, Jen, that's where you'll see the questions. And we're gonna let you find one and let you go ahead and ask one now. Just see what
Okay. For
yeah,
some
just
reason I
get
can't see them. I don't
okay.
know why. I've tried to
Now
get in
you
there. I
click
tried to type you a message too, and it's not letting me see it.
yeah,
So
I saw your message in private chat. That's working. So make sure you click on private and not stream chat.
I did, and it's
And you
still
don't see the questions?
no.
Okay. All right. So
So
what would you like to ask Judge? I know you'd like to greet him first, wouldn't you?
well, yeah. First of all, I'd like to say it is an honor to meet you, the soon-to-be mayor of Memphis. Is that correct?
Yeah, of
I'll put it
course.
I'll put it
I'm not
this
in your
way.
voting
I,
district, but
I'll put it this way. Steve Mulroy, the district attorney, came on Pearl's Politics, and we said that he was going to win. And he is now the DA.
Yeah, we did.
So Judge Joe Brown is on Pearl's Politics.
I think he's
And
muted right now.
uh, are you muted? I'll turn your volume on, Judge. And so we say that he is going to win.
Yes.
Your
Yeah.
volume
Yes.
is still off. We can't hear you, Judge. Judge, we can't hear you. Your volume. The volume.
Muted.
Make sure get your volume is on. He's not muted on this end. He's muted on his end.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, you accidentally muted yourself somehow. Can you hear
Or
us?
No, we
No,
can't hear you.
we can't hear you.
but you can hear us, right? Yeah, you muted on your end. I don't know what you did during the break.
Oh,
You may have accidentally touched something. But Jen, while he's fixing that, go ahead and tell
yeah.
him what you want
I
to tell him.
Well, Judge, you're not the only one having problems. It took this long for me to get here, but it is an honor to meet you. I have been following you in the public for a very long time, and I believe it's a very big honor to meet you. Um, I have I I'm a truther, and I love what you say about Mr. Leo. We code name here. If you know who I'm talking about, Mr. T, right? I've always thought he was a good person, and you verified that in an interview you did a couple years back. I forgot who you were with, but you had a long interview with somebody, and you mentioned some of the things about him, and I was happy to hear somebody else say what I'd already learned. So that was pretty cool. But I wish you a great success in becoming mayor of Memphis. And
Yeah, we got to.
I'm Sybil's niece, by the way. So
Yes.
I can't vote for you, but she can.
Yeah. And well, this my
We want
wonderful
his
niece in
his
Alabama.
volume.
And
Keep
as far as
talking,
I
Judge, so we
know,
can test your volume. He's gonna keep talking.
yeah,
Just
he's
keep
on the
talking.
computer.
He's
Uh-huh.
just trying to get his Ed say, is he on the Ed say if you got a call, if you're on your cell phone, if you got a call,
He's
you'll
on the
have to
computer.
restart. So he's on the computer. So he's not on the
But
cell
but
phone.
can I take this opportunity to let people know about his website?
Actually, I have it. Let me go ahead and share
Okay.
that. Hold on just a minute. I'll go ahead and share
Okay.
that website. I have that already pulled up, and we can get that shared. And wow, that'll give him an opportunity to go ahead and um, work on that website. I mean, work on his volume because he really needed volume. All right, so there's his website, and it is copy it and put it in the chat for y'all. Okay, right here.
I don't see the website.
I'm just putting it in, Sybil. I
Oh.
don't know why you think my fingers can type like zillion seconds a minute.
Ah,
She won't yeah, she won't give you time to do nothing, man.
Oh, I'm speedy. I can speed past her.
As soon as like you get it on out of your mouth, she goes, I don't see it.
I see it now.
Because I had to get it typed in there. Okay. All right.
Oh,
Judge,
you just
are you Judge, are
should
you
say
still
both
working
of us.
on
Should
are you
say
still
both of
working
us
on
when
your
we were
volume?
trying to do her first video.
I'm trying to make this. What is this doing? Wait a minute now. Hold on. Okay. What happened? Okay, is everybody still here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I
All right.
see the
So
judge.
Okay,
yeah, I was
Judge, I
trying to
had
make
to go out and come back in for mine to work.
okay. Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah,
If you can
I was
try
I
going
had
out.
I
Yeah.
had to go out and come back in for my audio to work. That's the problem I was having earlier.
Okay.
So go ahead
Uh,
and go out, Judge,
Go
and
out
come
and come
back
back
in.
in, Judge. Okay.
Yeah, come on back in.
Go out and come back in.
Go.
Yeah.
Yeah, go back to your email and click on the email link and start over again. Okay. All right, he heard us. All right, so let me just read from his website. He's got fighting for the future of Memphis, and I'm gonna put his Cash App in here. In the oops.
Oh yeah, that's great.
In here too. Paste it in. But you can actually go to his You can actually go to his website and donate from the website too. Okay, I think that's him coming back in. Let's see that ding. No, somebody else's computer dinging. That's on the team. Okay, all right. Hey, that's his Cash App. That's his website.
Judge Joe Brown joined.
Okay, Judge
I
Joe
heard
Brown
that.
joined. Yeah. Okay, Judge, can you can
I
you say
hear
something?
you.
All right.
Yeah, we can
Right.
hear you.
Yay, welcome
We can
back.
hear you. Yeah, we can hear you now. Okay. So sit back and relax. Don't
Okay.
touch anything while you got it working. Don't touch anything else. All right. Just sit back and relax. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So
We
here's
can't
his
see
website.
him, Emmy.
I know all of us are over to the side because I'm sharing his website, but he's in. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The
As soon as I take the sharing page off, he will be, you all will be able to see him. I left this up here to share the page. You're talking about the chat comment, his website
yeah.
is showing. Yeah, I know it's
Yeah.
covering him, but
There you go.
he,
Now we
he's
see
there.
him.
But I've got to put this up for the people. All right, y'all. Here is his Cash App. Okay. And I don't know if I can't move that block, okay? That's his Cash App. Y'all want to write this down right quick? $ Judge Joe Brown 2023. Real easy to remember. Judge, the $, y'all know they go in front of the Cash App, right? Judge Joe Brown 2023. And the website, write this down right quick, y'all, so I can get it out of the judge's face. JJB23.
2023.
Yeah.
2023. Thank you.
That's
Thank
what
you.
she meant to
.com.
say.
Yeah, JJB2023.com, you guys. Okay. It's up there. So I'm going to stop sharing so the rest of us can come in now. All right, there we go. We're all back. All right. So, Jen, did you have
Yes.
a question?
Well, how long have you been in Memphis? Because I know you've been everywhere. So how long
Well,
have you
let's
been in
put it this
Memphis?
way. I registered to vote about 50 years ago in Memphis. So I've been here
Oh,
for a half century. I wasn't born here, but unlike those who were born here, I had a choice in the matter. So I moved here. I was full grown out of law school. So I'm a Memphian. When I
All
did
right.
my show, I just got in a lot of air miles flying back and forth, and I had various places around the country I'd go one way or another. I had a high maintenance wife at the time, so it was fun, but went a lot of places. But I've always been in Memphis.
okay. So have you were you one of the people that got to meet Elvis?
I never got a chance to meet him, but at one time I lived about 3 blocks away from the mansion off of Presley Boulevard, just behind there. Never got to meet him. I knew some of his security people, and some people worked with him, but I never got a chance to meet him personally.
Were you one of the people that got
Good
to
question.
meet Elvis? So,
That was a
Some-
double echo.
Yeah,
somebody's
feedback.
got their volume on
This
or
it's
something.
me. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
trying
okay.
to get
There you go.
some. I'm trying to share something. I'm sorry about that. Hold on just a minute. Let me
By the
close
way,
this.
we need to revitalize what's done with Elvis, also Stack, stuff like Miss Pearl's doing. The city needs to start subsidizing local talent and
That's a good
reinventing
idea.
what's done with it, because why are we sponsoring an international hotel? Why
Ah,
paying
yeah.
for other people to get businesses when they're supposed to give us in return a percentage of their net, which is always zeroed out anyway. So what
Right.
is here?
Well,
What are we doing?
and sponsoring the hotel, I mean, if it's that way, then they should provide an opportunity for new talent to be performing there.
Why don't we do that as part of the city policy to begin
Right.
with? Other
Right.
thing, I've been checking out. I didn't have political science as my major at UCLA when I went there back in the 60s. I had something else that was more science oriented. And based on that, I'm looking at how Asia is using these modular hydroelectric generators. They look like the bottom half of large outboard motors.
Right.
And you can put 10, 15 of them under a flat float or 50 under a barge. And you can moor them anywhere. You can have huge banks. And the Mississippi River, unlike the tide flows, doesn't go in and out. And you don't need electric storage facilities to take up 7/8 of the cost to store the electricity during the slack tides. The Mississippi River is going to keep running for the next 1.5 million years. There are a couple of 120-foot deep channels out there. You don't even have to put them at the bottom. You can put them on the surface. You can put one or two of them in a large pickup to transport them. And we could have essentially unlimited electric power for essentially free. And we can sell the surplus from New Orleans to Louisville to Chicago to all points in between to Little Rock, to Oklahoma City, to Huntsville, Birmingham, Atlanta, you name it. And industry thrives on inexpensive energy. So we could bring in heavy industry. We don't have any smog inversion layers, so we wouldn't have to worry about that. We've got plenty of land to expand in. We've got Ford Motor Company and Cadillac that between them going to probably hire 35,000, 40,000 people in the next 5 years, which will demand the town to support them, maybe 150 to 200,000, and everything that will go along with that. So we could have Detroit moving to West Tennessee because California said nothing but all electric cars are going to be allowed for sale, and now it's about 13 and a half years. The 7 largest car manufacturing entities in the world have committed themselves to selling nothing but electric cars in that time. Toyota, Mitsubishi, Honda, and such like, and Infiniti, they want to get into this area, and they need to get an incentive to get in here so we can talk about hiring people at $34.19 an hour to start instead of worrying about minimum wage, $142.17 an hour.
Right.
You can get those kind of jobs. Europe has these standardized barge, well, not barge, but cargo containers that you can put on trucks, trains, planes, and barges. They load barges up in Europe, gather them in the Mediterranean, put them on board ocean-going barge transports, send them across the mid-Atlantic, and they wind up at the port of New Orleans. They drop the rear hatch, and if you're down there, you can see them. They look like 1,000-foot-long streamlined oil tanker. When they drop the rear hatch, float the barges out, they can get tows up to Memphis, where President's Island supports the world's largest barge unloading facility. That's where they're run through American customs, not when they get to New Orleans, but in Memphis. Meanwhile, you can take those cars that Ford wants to get over into Asia, and Cadillac with the opposite end of the spectrum as well. We can take them back through the Mediterranean, drop some off in Europe, keep going through the Suez Canal and up into Asia. Korea, the Philippines, Japan, China, you name it, and bring loads of the other stuff back. They can go through the Suez Canal and get directly to Memphis without having to go through the whole Pacific Ocean to get to the Port of Long Beach and Los Angeles, and then add 2,000 miles on that to get to Memphis. That saves almost 9,000 miles on the trip, and it's very economical. We could have all of that in here. The Memphis Area Transit Authority says they can drop the fare way down, maybe as low as a nickel a ride, and expand everything if they had electric buses that had that kind of energy source available. Right. Every new commercial building, every renovated commercial building would have to have a solar array of a certain size on it, to schools as well. And the city could subsidize that just as much as $750 million for a soccer arena and almost $2.5–3 billion for football.
Sounds like a plan to me.
We probably don't even have but one soccer team. Memphis is not that type of city.
Never had.
If you go out here on Forest Irene at Shelby Drive, there are 12 soccer fields full size. So if you want to develop something, do it that way. And don't base what you do based on certain people getting what they get.
Right.
Look at the pyramid. That pyramid was to cost the same amount that they actually paid for the one that we got, but it was supposed to be on the bluff on the south end of Memphis, where the River Mark is, which used to be the River Model Hotel. It was supposed to be the full size of the ancient Cheops pyramid in Memphis, Egypt. But we put it 7 feet below the river level because certain people had that property. It's half the width it was supposed to be. The acoustics are horrible. The seating was horrible. And Sidney Schlinker came in and ripped us off for $85 million like he did elsewhere, except the people that were in on it, they made money and everybody else went bankrupt. We gave it to Bass Pro. Bass Pro got the city to pay for finally putting the elevators in and finally installing the restaurant at the top. You go down Riverside Drive from there and you get to Beale Street Landing, which went into operation, if you can call it that, in 2014. The taxpayers paid $35 million for it. It was supposed to be a gift shop, bar, and grill. The guy bailed on us. Nobody sued the city to get its money back, and the city can't operate a bar under law. So it sits there, and the only thing we see is an elevated grass mound that doesn't make any sense and a giant catfish jungle gym that a few kids get to play on. So what in the world are we doing? Where is the coherency in what we deal with when we deal with this city? We have city planning, but it's like it doesn't count because so many zoning variances are given out. And ordinary developers, I don't care what your race, ethnicity is, you've got to go through all these hoops, spend a year and a half with code enforcement. Meanwhile, certain other people, they go in and say, here, we want this zoning variance. Oh, yeah, this is what you want. Rubber stamp it, and they get it right away. And too much of that's going on. Look at what's going on down on Beale Street. Look at what they're trying to do to get this corridor that we're supposed to pay for down from Beale Street to where the Club Paradise is. And what about that 40 acres of grass just west of the Paradise Club, where the city cuts it for somebody who rents the 40 acres from us for $1 a year?
It's probably China. China bought property over in Arkansas, and I think they do have some in South Carolina and North Carolina. They don't know to who.
Well, at least they pay for it.
They pay for it, but why do they allow foreign companies? This is not a this is a country.
Well, but they form corporate entities, sovereign entities, where the government does it. But the difference is that the people that get the advantage here in Memphis don't have to pay for it. They get stuff like $1 cash up front, 4 to 6% of their net, which their accountants always zero out. So all we do is pay for it. They get to reap the profits.
That's right.
And something goes under the table and we get nothing back for our tax dollars.
So we have taxation without representation.
Yes, and then not without representation. What is our representation doing with our tax dollars, and how much are they getting under the table or over the table?
Exactly.
Right.
See, they don't want me in. And
I
if you
know.
look at the commercial appeal, they haven't mentioned me. The local press won't mention me except negatively. They came up with something when I said it's dangerous for women. They need to be protected, and a lot of places aren't safe. Well, young Democrats wanted to claim, well, he's insulting us. We don't need to be protected. Less than 24 hours later, that young woman who was jogging around the University of Memphis early in the morning got kidnapped, raped, and killed.
Yeah.
And somebody that was in that crowd, by the way, there were 150 people there, and I'd say 23 of them signed in with the Young Democrats. They were all upset and irate, but I got about 18, 19 women, almost the same number, who volunteered for the campaign out of that, and people were in the back going high five and go Judge. And one of the women who was there said, check this out. She said, what am I going to do? I said, well, what's your problem? The police wanted to talk to me today. What about? Well, apparently, while I was doing some contract work with one of my clients, measuring an empty apartment for renovation, somebody broke in while I was there, raped and killed a woman in the apartment right next to the one I was working in. I didn't even know it. And guess what? It's right across the street from a police precinct.
Wow.
So what are you supposed to do with that kind of mess? Now, we have some things that can be done, but nobody has a clue. Do you see our current mayor going out and being able to confront some of the
You want to know
young
something?
folk who are doing wrong and encouraging them and inspiring them to do something
He
right?
won't even answer emails. I'm still waiting on an answer from an email that I sent him at the beginning of last year.
And how
I
about
have not received an answer yet.
And how about this? The city has a quality control function where when people make complaints, let's see how they're actually carried out. Somebody needs to be checking on that. And potholes, these potholes.
Potholes. That's
Wow.
my thing.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me tell you how bad they are. I spoke about them 2 weeks ago, the day after Martin Luther King's Day. And it was the opening of a new business not too far from the penal farm, off-road motorcycles and quad runners. And one of the women said, was in tears. She said, I lost my son last year. He hit a pothole, lost control of the car, and went on the oncoming traffic, and 2 people, including him, died. And I talked to somebody else. They said their car flipped after their son hit a pothole and he died. So how many people got killed? 47 not killed, injured just this icy period. We just had, the number is 47 people in that 3-day period. What happened? Memphis didn't have any salt or sand stockpiled or any road equipment to put it down. Every year that happens. Fortunately, nobody died this year.
And
But
every year
typically, every year there are serious injuries and we don't do anything about it. The weather report says, guess what? It's going to be snow and ice. So nobody reads this. What's happening in the mayor's office and in the administrative centers of this city? And even if you put the salt down and it rains instead of snow as the form of precipitation, it melts, but it still blocks the ice. So what are we doing here and where is our money going?
They're using it up. And I'll tell you,
the system's so corrupt. I mean, really, number one, people need to be re-educated on the proper way things are supposed to be. They're fed lies daily. The law is not being followed the way it was written. Bad people are getting away with bad things and covering up the good things. The money is being defunded from the police. Why? People don't trust the police because they're having to deal with all the chaos going on. And then they get blamed for a lot of the stuff that the chaos caused, right? People are getting paid to cause chaos, and then they're preaching defund the police. Why? People are supposed to trust the police. And look, there's good and bad in everything. Just because they're a police officer doesn't make them, a good person. But if they're trained properly and doing their job properly and not being the bad person, then they should not be defunded. They should be promoted into the public as a good person doing the right job to protect the people. They need to stop protecting the government. They take an oath to protect the people, right? Serve and protect the citizens. They're not supposed to be serving and protecting the government. The government's having control over what they do, and the people are getting left out. It's crazy. And that's not only in Memphis, it's everywhere.
Yes, it is. People are getting
Yeah.
scapegoated because of, you know what the problem is? There's no leadership at the top.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
None. How many of
Judge?
the people that are leaders, that are supposed to be leaders, do you feel inspired to follow?
None.
None.
Judge, how did you feel about the Union State of the Union address? I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it because I can't stand that man's voice to start with. But when I saw the clips all over social media, and I saw the people acting like the people do at home in the house, calling him a liar when he spoke the lies, you know, I was like, yes, finally, somebody's acting like the real people of
Well,
America.
Let me tell you what I didn't want to watch it. Let me tell you why. Fox recently, and they're still streaming it on the Fox app. I
Really?
was the judge for a moot court or moot proceeding where we brought in what looked to be a fair jury to me to assess whether or not they had a reasonable belief that there were crimes committed that should be investigated further. They specifically paid attention to FARA, Foreign Agents Registration Act. We had giving testimony under oath was the computer repairman. It wasn't one computer, one laptop.
Yeah.
It was 3. And we went over transcripts of the whole thing. And what I saw is a criminal court judge, what my colleagues, one of whom was a sharp New York defense lawyer, and so was the other one, who had also been one case 15 years with the DA's office and another one 19. We all looked at each other and said, it would not be hard to get indictments out of what we just got through looking at. We actually asked Fox not to publish some of the stuff because it would be hazardous to American security. So I looked at what was going on and I said, this man ought to have pending criminal charges in America. He already does in Ukraine. And when you ask why we're in Ukraine, perhaps it's to influence them to dismiss him and his son from this multiple count organized crime indictment that Ukraine returned and published 2 weeks before the November 2020 election cycle. Now, where does that come into play? Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution says the government shall enforce the law of nations. That's a quote. Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution says the president and vice president, upon impeachment and conviction for the following 3 categories: 1, bribery; 2, treason, which is clearly defined in the Constitution and the requirements for conviction are set forth. It's the only crime defined in the Constitution. And 3, either misdemeanors or felonies committed in office. Now, Article 6 of the Constitution says part of the supreme law of the land are such treaties as have been ratified by the Senate. Let's start with that one first. We have the Interpol treaties that have been ratified by Congress, the Senate rather, and that means that they're part of the supreme law of the land. Ukraine is part of that, and we have separate treaties with Ukraine that says the U.S. and the Ukraine will cooperate with each other in criminal investigations, the apprehension of criminal elements, their detention, and their extradition. Now, back to Article 2, Section 4. One of the several counts in the indictment is bribery, subornation of perjury, subornation of treason, extortion, and a number of other organized crime things that constitute misdemeanors or felonies in office. We have his own statement recorded during a January 2018 C-SPAN hearing. He says, "I guess I committed bribery, ha ha ha. When I was the vice president, I told them if they didn't back off of this investigation of my son, I was going to see that 14 billion in American loan guarantees got withheld. I guess that's extortion and bribery." Okay, he said it. Now, the Democratic controlled House did something I thought was ill-advised, and it's in the category of be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. They went after Trump twice, including after he was no longer president of the United States of America, for something he did as president, allegedly. Now, they didn't cite any actionable grounds, which I found amusing but disgusting because they'd made all that hell about it. But they went after him, which set the precedent that you can go after a vice president or a president for things done when they no longer held office. So what we have is vice president. Whoa, wow, we whoopee. Then we get into the further thing, Malargo. Well, Trump, they want to say, well,
they different.
He had these secret documents, and the item is United States Department of Navy versus Egan, EAGN. I believe it was 1987. They said the president of the United States has the absolute authority to declassify any instrument in any shape, form, or fashion he chooses. At least Trump was president, but when Biden gets those, he's not president. He doesn't have that authority. He's vice president. Also, I have a sneaking suspicion that if you looked at the documents that he had, they would dovetail in with some of what was on that laptop, where meeting with the big guy, etc. Did you have a fruitful meeting with the big guy who is dad, and then a communication email with dad? How did the meeting go? Fine. We really dealt with the business that we discussed, blah, 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 blah. So everybody's looking at it as, why did you pay this alleged crackhead $84,000 a month without bonuses being considered for something he had never done, and he'd been discharged within the year from the U.S. Armed Forces for being a drug addict after he declined all drug rehabilitation. So access to the big guy, and they talked about the big guy. You're meeting with the big guy in the observatory. That's where the vice president stays. So it's like when we looked at it, we said, oh boy, this is deep. And then look what they did on Trump. Now, I'm not defending him one way or the other. I'm just being legal about it. The House of Representatives can return articles of impeachment. That's like an indictment.
Right.
Senate is supposed to try them. Let's take the first round for illustration. 3 grounds: bribery, treason, or misdemeanors and felonies in office. Okay, they charged him one with obstructing Congress. That was the easy one. Congress, by Article 1, shall consist of 2 houses or 2 chambers. The House of Representatives and the Senate shall consist of the Congress of the United States, compose the Congress of the United States. Well, as soon as it got over to the Senate, hey, any of you guys felt obstructed? Well, that's out, because the Congress is composed of the House and Senate. So if half of it, it don't count. And the other thing is anytime a president vetoes something, he's obstructing the will of Congress. Next thing is, what are they charging him with? Abusing his authority. So what does that come under?
Nothing.
Is it bribery? No. Is it treason? No. Is it a crime? No, because it's not designated as a crime under American law. What did he do? So you spend all this time
and money
around with all of the press going rah, 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 and then you get it over there. And if you'd been in a court of law, somebody could have demurred to it or asked for a directed verdict. If it had gone to proof, it didn't even have to go that far. Just say, ask for a dismissal. Everything you say may be true, but it doesn't state any actionable ground. So it's out of there. So we wasted the taxpayers' money, and then they went back again and set the precedent. So while we whoop you, that's the kind of stuff we get. And the press goes rah, rah, rah. And then if you disagree with that, then you're spreading a falsehood. So they will restrict you. Forget the First Amendment. Oh, they said, let's talk about where we live. Memphis and Shelby County, Tennessee. 2004, the Justice Department under Bush found that the election machines in Shelby County were hacked. They were not delivering fair elections. 2006, again, 2008, the Justice Department put up the money with Shelby County to replace every machine. Did they replace it? No. Well, 3 years later, the Justice Department, now under Obama, found that the machines were hacked. The one under Trump found that they were hacked. And in spite of UPI, Associated Press, USA Today, and CNN saying there were no instances of election fraud, the Biden administration's Department of Justice found they were hacked. And we had replaced machines? No, because every time it comes up for a simple majority resolution on the county commission, at least 3 people that ought not be voting against it. So we came into 2022 and we had 14 years of corrupted machines where the money was out there that the feds put up to replace them. Finally, they replaced them. So then they say, we've got to go do something about getting a sales tax raised to pay for them. Wait a minute. The feds put the money up 15 years ago to replace them. What happened to that?
Look how much interest that it has earned.
Yes, for somebody else. But where did the money go? If you're saying don't have the money, that's federal money. So what happened here? So now we have some machines. And by the way, I'm still suspect off of 2 things on the machines. You have an option as to how you want to vote. You can say, I want the computer to print out my paper ballot so I can put it in the second machine. Or 2, I want to mark my own paper ballot and put it in the second machine. Now, when you get ready to get that first machine to print your ballot, it says once you hit print, you cannot change it. Right there, a hack could go in so that once you print it out, you can't change it. You say, wait a minute, this isn't what I wanted to vote. And you see, you got to go through all kinds of changes to do that. And I didn't see anybody looking at it once they walked from the machine. So then you take that one or the one you filled out and you put it in the second machine before you leave to get it counted. That's right there. Now, we get all kinds of crazy stuff that we get told. If the Justice Department that is saying there were no voting irregularities, they changed it to no significant voting irregularities in this last election cycle, also say in Shelby County, the only county in America that uses the Diebold voting machines. Unfortunately, these machines have long been hacked, and even though California and Hawaii dumped theirs in the ocean, and Ohio dumped theirs in the lakes, and Florida got rid of theirs, and California put an instruction manual out on how to hack the machines using a smartphone so nobody would dare to use them. Okay, even though that exists in Shelby County, I guess Shelby County doesn't exist, so we can say we don't have any voting irregularities anywhere in the country. That's all false. And if anybody contends otherwise, then we will make sure that we suppress their First Amendment rights because they're being irresponsible. Well, guess what? In the history of the United States, the third most common complaint in politics is election misconduct. So what else is new? And by the way, the thing that was going to go on January 6th when everything got broken up was consideration of the Confidence in Election Act of 1877. And that required, and it's still good law in the United States, that whenever there is an apparent lack of public confidence in election, the House and the Senate shall appoint a 15-man committee or 15-person committee. 5 from the House, 5 from the Senate, and 5 from the Supreme Court, with the Supreme Court Chief Justice presiding. Whichever house has the majority in that house, they get, well, in that chamber, they get 3 and the opposition gets 2. So that would have been 3 Democrats from the Senate, 2 Republicans, and from the Senate, it would have been 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 5 members of the U.S. Supreme Court. They were authorized under the 1877 Act to take a minimum of 10 days to audit the election result, taking such time as is necessary to maintain the confidence of the nation in its election processes. So did that happen? No. All that stuff went down. So by the way, being a member of my university class of a year in the 1960s, I remember when they called a demonstration a lot more than 180 people, that was just an unruly crowd of people. That wasn't a mob. That wasn't even a demonstration. You had to have several thousand. Anybody remember what happened at the Democratic Party convention in Chicago in 1968? Anybody remember what happened in D.C. in 67 and 69 and in 68, where you had thousands of people protesting?
Oh, yeah, that's right. At the March on Washington.
Yeah. So was that 180 people? My God, bringing down the United States? 180 people? Come on, people.
Right.
What are you trying to get away with? Stuck on stupid?
They are.
We can see this.
Yeah. So, Judge, does this phrase make any sense to you? I believe that 2020 and many other things that's happened since were in effect a type of roll call and sting operation.
Well, I got something makes more sense. Burning of the Reichstag in 1932.
Okay.
You familiar with that?
I've come across it in my research. Yes.
The German Parliament building burnt down, and a certain National Socialist Workers' Party went through a sham to try and get the liberties of the German people abridged so they could take absolute power. National Socialist Workers' Party has an acronym in German. We're all familiar with it, and we don't like it.
Right.
No, we don't. Yes, that makes sense. Okay.
Got a question.
I'm not saying it because they might restrict you, and I don't want Miss Pearl to get upset because they're clamping down on you.
No, we use code words on our show.
Yeah. Well, I do know about the laptop. I spent the whole year of 2019 screaming because I heard the news about the laptop in Australian news called the Sky News in Australia, right? And nobody was talking about it here in the public.
There are 3. And by the way, most
one of them,
on that laptop is, I don't know how they let this alleged crackhead get it, but it's actual White House tape. Obama has got his arms crossed and he is leaning against the front of his desk in the Oval Office. Seated to his right in front of him on the far right is Joe Biden. Next to him on Joe Biden's right is Hunter Biden. And standing up on Obama's left is a representative of a Chinese business entity. And he's explaining how through some sham connections from this corporation that Hunter is consulting with, he has deposited $100 million in cash for certain. And our president is saying, let me get this straight. I get 10%, Joe gets 10%, and Hunter gets 10%. Is that right? The guy indicates an affirmative. Now, I won't get into it, but they were discussing what was supposed to go on for that 10%. It's not pretty. Let's just say it involved the United States Navy and what's happening in the South China Sea. So right now, we are giving away billions of dollars of military aid to Ukraine. And the U.S. Department of Defense is squawking, saying if we get into some armed hostilities with surrogates of the People's Republic of China over Taiwan, we don't have but 5 days worth of ammunition on certain vital things. And we just gave most of that away. We gave away 7 years worth of production, 17, 18 years worth of production of some other, this, that, and the other. We can't hack it. So we are in trouble. And by the way, why are we giving that aid to these people in Ukraine? First off, there is a bad problem. After World War II, those who might have stood trial in Ukraine in front of the Nuremberg trials where they tried the Nazis for war crimes were not required to be put to trial because Stalin refused to allow it. And he said, I'll take care of it. Also, Nikita Khrushchev, who became the Soviet premier, was from Ukraine. He was hero of the Soviet Union, one of Stalin's right-hand men. He had been premier commissar during the Stalingrad siege, and he was born and raised in Ukraine, and Ukraine was the largest Soviet state. So there were a lot of unrepentant Nazis who had constituted the biggest block of volunteers for the Waffen-SS, the Wehrmacht, and outright Gestapo affiliates, and rounded up more Jews, more gypsies, more vagabonds in Europe to be sent to extermination camps than anybody outside of Germany. So they weren't brought to justice. And some of those people you've seen that seem to be hobnobbing with American officials. Prior years, you've seen them with the shirts off. They've got on white beater T-shirts, tank tops, and they've got prominent swastikas tattooed all over them. And it's interesting listening to Russia's justification. They say, first and foremost, we are protecting the rest of the world from a resurgence of Nazism. Why is the United States attempting to help them out? Next thing, we are trying to deal with the fact that they have a sex slave trafficking problem here that is not being addressed. And a lot of the descendants of African immigrants in 1950, 51, 52 who settled in the Ukraine, where the weather is not 40, 50 below zero like it sometimes gets around Moscow. Why are there great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren being kidnapped and sold into sex slavery and kept in armed brothels and nobody's doing anything about it? What's going on with that? And why do you have a big body of Ukrainians who want to go back under Russian control to get fairness and equity? So what are we doing?
Jen said that for a long time, all year long.
Oh,
Jen,
hey,
you just got
hey.
your confirmation, right?
Yes, I did. Okay, I do believe that Trump and Putin are working together in a sense, and that he's cleaning up Ukraine. I do
Well,
believe that.
yeah, here's the other thing, too. You've got Biden whose family seems to have gotten rich through bribes allegedly given to his son for favors gained, all while he was being vice president and perhaps before when he was U.S. Senator. Now, understand, for his whole adult life, he's been on a civil service payroll. So, how do you get to be a rich man working for the government? Next thing, we have a situation where Trump wasn't born poor, but he made his billions. And guess how much Putin is worth, reportedly, according to Business Insider?
About 30 times more.
He's worth reportedly $120 billion, which makes him one of the richest men on earth.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you got this thing with Barack Obama. There's a very interesting relationship thing with that. Barack Obama was the richest man ever to be U.S. president because his adoptive daddy, Lolo Soetoro, who ran the death squads for the Indonesian government when he was in the army, was spy master for the spy operations for the CIA in the People's Republic of China, North Vietnam, North Korea, Cambodia, and Laos. North Vietnam, if I didn't say that. And Barack Obama's maternal grandmother was the paymaster that was distributing the funds to him. He got with and married Barack Obama's mother, and Lolo Soetoro, that was his name, not his real name, but the one that he used, adopted Barack Obama. And when Lolo Soetoro supposedly died from the cumulative effects of 3 separate car accidents, he was one of the 10 or 15 richest men on earth, and he put everything in an Indonesian trust fund that is not subject to American control. And the president, previously known as Barry Soetoro, aka Barack Obama, was one of the 3 beneficiaries. Now, Business Insider 3 years ago reported his net income after expenses on approximately $1.5 billion draw from his trust fund as $570 million for that year. Now, this is where it gets interesting. There is a gentleman by the name of Prescott Bush. Prescott Bush was a Republican United States Senator. Prescott Bush's nephew was Barack Obama's maternal grandfather. Prescott Bush's son was President George Herbert Walker Bush. So George Herbert Walker Bush and Obama's grandfather were first cousins. So that makes George Walker Bush cousin to Barack Obama. Also, interestingly, Dick Cheney was also cousin to George W. Bush and George Herbert Walker Bush, and a nephew of the Bush that was the Senator Prescott Bush. So it's unholy. And there's a guy named Sam Hinckley. Sam Hinckley is their ancestor. Sam Hinckley had Bush, and Obama. That's 3 U.S. presidents and 1 vice president. He also had 3 other American presidents as his descendants. And he was a Huguenot, a French Protestant. He was being persecuted by the Catholics in France, so he indentured himself for 25 years to get sent to America. So he was one of those indentured servants that was mentioned in the first Article 1 of the Constitution, which says, for purposes of apportioning representation in the House of Representatives, 3/5 of all those in involuntary servitude or slavery shall be counted toward that number. That's because the census is supposed to be had every 10 years, primarily to apportion representation in the House of Representatives. Now, I have filled out 5 U.S. censuses personally as an adult in my lifetime. This is last one was the only one when they did not ask me if I was a U.S. citizen, and they did not ask me what the citizenship of my parents was. So now, why is that important? Same thing as Article 1, where you want not to get people to vote illegally. You don't want them to vote at all. You just want them to be counted. So sanctuary states like California and New York and stuff like that, they can have an enhanced population so they can secure representation in the House of Representatives that a large body of the people they're supposed to be representing can't vote in determining. In other words, you get extra people, so you get extra congressmen, you get extra clout controlled by a select few people. That's what they're doing. But nobody in the press will explain that because they don't want to, because it's all part of the same mess.
Well, I'm
Tim, do
constantly
you have a
saying.
question? Oh, excuse me, Tim,
Yeah,
do you
go.
have a question?
Let's see. I believe he's covered everything on my end.
Very thorough. I would like to ask you though, what would it mean to you to be mayor of the city? And in the future, do you see yourself in the White House, maybe as a vice president,
I'm
for
too
example?
old. If somebody called me, maybe, but I came out of retirement. The late Mrs. Dr. Barbara Cooper approached me
Yeah.
2.5 years ago, and I've known her for almost 50 years. And she said we went on the Title I committee to the Board of Education way
Yeah.
back when Doc was.
Doc Harrington.
Yeah, he was assistant superintendent. And that's been
Board of
50 years
Education.
ago. So she and I have been friends. And when she first ran for representative in the 1990s, I couldn't do anything directly because I was on the bench. And I goaded her on about getting a doctorate degree, and she did. So she said, it's your turn now. You have to come out of retirement, young man. And you need to run for mayor. So she set up my exploratory committee and chaired the first few organizational meetings until she fell and got a blood clot, went into a coma, recovered, and then didn't recover and unfortunately passed before her time. So she just said, city's going down a rabbit hole. Please come back. Why? And what am I doing? I don't have any ambition. I don't need the money. And I like to sleep at night. So when I almost got taken twice over the last 5 years, I was in intensive care for a week in the hospital for a full month because I had an allergic reaction to metformin that shut my kidneys down. So I had bilateral renal kidney failure.
Oh my goodness.
And pulmonary edema. I couldn't breathe. They had me on an oxygen for a week. And then I found out 2 years ago I had cancer, but I beat that. So I just said, you know what? Well, last bunch of checkups, including last Friday, everything was perfectly clean. Put you through the machines and scan you and all that stuff.
That's wonderful.
Commend West Cancer Clinic. It's an excellent place. The people that work there treat you like you're royalty, and everybody is treated well. Now, I just said, you know what? I don't know how long I'm going to be here. My doctor says you keep it up, you'll be here until you get to be 100, like your grandfathers. Both of them made that. Grandmother too, 96. So another one, not sure how old she was. She was a Choctaw Indian, but she was an old lady when she passed. And I said, you know what? I like sleeping well at night and saying I did my part. And I always got taught from day one what you are about, what you've done that counts, not how much money you made. It's what you've done for the people. Your job is to make it better so somebody might remember you when you're gone.
Right. And Jenny has a question.
If we have time.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is, I'm asking this for the people of Memphis. Okay. We know how campaigns run, you know, throw the dirt this way, throw the dirt that way, honest person, deceitful person. Is there one thing that the opponent is throwing at you that you would like to clear up for the people?
They say I'm crazy, but
we have to be crazy to live in this world. So
I know
that was
but
off the board.
I've just noticed that the people who are honest and forthright tend to be called crazy. But
That's true.
Yeah.
I like women. I've been married twice. I only have 2 children that I know about, and they're grown. I'm a grandfather. My granddaughter is drop dead gorgeous, but she isn't even 5 years old yet. She scares me. And I want to make sure that she has a good world, and everybody else's kids do too. The youngest son just got out of the Navy, and he works for the Pentagon as a contractor, so he's on the right one. The oldest one has problems, but, you know, I'm trying to make it straight for everybody. So what can they say about me? I'm brutally honest. And I have always been that way. I never lied to the public. I mean, I might have lied to some woman about what I was doing just to avoid suspicion. But, you know, most of the time I was a bachelor in life. So,
okay. Thank you for that.
I will not tell you what you want to hear if you need to hear something else. On the criminal bench, I got used to delivering what they called an allocution, ALLOCUTION. You guys used to like it when I'd get on some litigant in there who was acting a fool.
Yeah.
And what that is the duty of the magistrate or judge to denounce the miscreant and convey the ire of the community and the transgression of the law. So that's what I do. And I've always found that it is good in the long run because people say, you said that. I remember when you said that. I didn't want to hear it, but now that I think about it and I've seen it, yeah, the bottom line is somebody's got to tell you what the truth is because everybody tries to lie to you. And like some people like, why are you lying to them? What are you trying to get out of that? Well, that's like a doctor saying you have a problem, but then lying to you about what the problem is. Not an honest misdiagnosis, but just lying to you so you will pay him a fee to do an operation you don't need that he isn't too sure is going to do anything for you, if not do harm. So people in this area get paid very little for what they do as an elected official, but they spend a lot of money getting elected. So they make money elsewhere to supplement their income. See, this is a part-time job, except offices like the mayor and stuff like that, or and things like that, or clerks, or assessor, or things like that. But we have a bad habit of continuing what started off a long time ago. Anybody remember Robert Church?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Robert Church is one of the big figures in Memphis's past. He maybe saved the city from yellow fever. And he was a black man, very fair black man. And his father was one of the richest men in Mississippi. Well, Robert Church kept losing his landed property type properties, and he kept losing money because it was taken from him. So his father sent a very smart young lawyer up to Memphis to help him. That lawyer's name was Crump. He became known as Boss Crump.
Boss Crump.
Boss Crump had the idea that the way to save this situation was to run to politics. So
And he
what
did.
he did is he set up a situation where he had the black bloc vote. It was known as the Lincoln Republicans. If you go to a Lincoln Republican meeting now, it's all white. Nobody realizes that black
That it
people
was
founded
black.
it, started it.
Mhm.
And he had he had a large white minority. And he put together an interesting thing. He meant well, but he had a system of brokers, white and black, who would deliver blocks of votes. So Memphis,
Mhm.
for the last 100 or so years, has been used to the vote being delivered.
That's right.
And what happens is we get a sample ballot handed out to us as we walk to the poll. We haven't paid
I never
attention to
accept
who's
them.
on the ballot. If we read walk in with 5 or 6 of them, and we quickly look over them as we're waiting in line, and then we vote what's on the sample ballot. So sometimes we miss out on the same people are putting out different ballots, and on one of them they've got a Republican candidate endorsed, and on the other one a Democratic candidate endorsed for the same office, and they've been taking money for both of them, and all kinds of other stuff. And another thing, that raises one specific point I will address about what they're saying. Okay, now that's not good. Now, what is it they're saying? Some people say I was so crazy that I caused the Democrats to lose badly in 2014. No, I didn't. What happened is they brought me in November 2013 to raise money for the Democratic Party treasury. I did a fundraiser at the Memphis Country Club.
Mhm.
The Democratic Party had more than $150,000 in their bank account. By the week before the election in August 2014,
Mhm.
they had $215.
Mm.
Now, what happened to the rest of that money?
Mhm.
You can answer that. That's why they lost. They couldn't even put out a sample ballot.
Okay.
Now,
I
that's
like
what
your
they're
answer.
accusing me of, but that's what the problem is. You bring it on yourself. Now, I am not a Democrat. I was a lifetime Democrat. Some Republican candidates have always appealed to me, and I'm an independent now, and the mayor's race is a nonpartisan position. You can't declare a party, and there are no primaries for it. So let's
That's perfect
get
for
the
you.
best of each side.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Some people need to
I understand.
understand that if you always support one party, they have no incentive to do anything for you if they don't
That's true.
have to do anything for your support. And if you always vote against the other party, no matter what they might try to do for you, they have
Mhm.
no incentive to deliver anything to you. So
That's right.
neither party has an incentive to give you anything at all, and you're stuck. Your
You're
vote
stuck.
is something that is a chit that says somebody owes you good government,
Yes. That's
not
why I'm
government
an
delivered to
independent.
certain special interests, but for everybody.
That's
See,
right.
black, white, brown, red, yellow, everybody's in this mix together. And if we don't do something about it, we're going down, because the People's Republic of China is out there waiting in the wings in Arkansas, other places, and they're saying, hey,
That's right.
we have a coherent program. We have 1,300,000,000 people. You don't have but 300 plus million people. So we've got 1 billion more than you, and everybody in China has to go as far in school as they can go, and it's free of charge. Otherwise, you'll work in a rice paddy up to your bare knees in human excrement and urine, and you can smell the place from 5 miles away. If that's what you want to
Like
work
rum.
in,
Like they
be
used to
our
smell
guest.
rum.
We need food production, but we are
Yeah.
sending everybody to school we can. And you know how
They
far
do.
they've gotten? The most powerful
They have
computer setup in the world. If you buy an iPhone and you order it and you ask for the tracking feature, you'll see it ships to places inside the People's Republic of China before it leaves to be shipped to America. You know what else they've done? Star Trek stuff. Independent scientists have verified it. The Chinese have beamed small amounts of matter from their laboratories to their satellites and back. You know, Scotty, beam me aboard. You know, Captain Kirk. Or the other thing is, they've experimentally warped space in a laboratory in the U.S. to say, hey, they have, but we don't know how to do it. They've got the engineering to make it happen. You know what they're doing? They're working on a star drive, a warp engine for real. And it is what it is. So we're getting left further and further behind. Our kids are playing vid games and they're trying to get ahead.
Yes, that's right. Well, there are some other questions out there.
I'm
We're just going to have to have. No, we're going to have you back so that you can get those other questions in. I knew that we were going to have a lot of questions for you. But when is the mayor's election?
It's in the first part of October this year.
This year, that's soon. Huh?
So that's JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown down, take back your town. It's yours. You pay for it. You've earned it. You deserve it. Take it. It's in your hands. It's not me. It's you. I'm just enabling you to do what you need to do and want to do. I will lead. I'll be out front. I won't ask you to go anywhere I won't go. I will go down and deal with the thugs who can be recruited to be good citizens. I will go bring in the industry and everything else we need to get an economic base here. I will develop innovation. I will develop what is going on in the science world so we can deal with energy. We can deal with industry. We can deal with restructuring with police. One other thing I have. There is no reason why the city can't run arbitration proceedings under contract so ordinary people can litigate issues and cut down on the frustration and tension, a place where lawyers can't practice because ordinary people cannot afford the courts, and the courts are there to keep down all of this hostility. We need that too, and I know how to set that up.
That'd be great.
We've got a lot
Come to Alabama.
I tell you what, you come on back to Memphis and meet your sister. And when you come on back, we welcome migrants. You just got to be legal ones because we're not going to be a sanctuary city. You know what I'm saying? Come on to Memphis. It will be the Mecca for the United States. This place is located where it is, and thanks to geography and geology, and it ain't going anywhere. And it is where it happens to be, and that is in a location that makes it the distribution center of the continent. And it's working that way now, but that can be expanded because where you can distribute from, you can manufacture and ship from. Where you can manufacture and ship from, you can import to. This is where we need to be, and it's going to be Chicago of the 21st century.
I like it.
All right.
Listen, we got comments, everybody thanking you, just saying how much they enjoyed you. They still got questions. So what about if you have time?
Well, I have time. I'm at your
No, not tonight.
Not tonight.
No, this is not proposition. This is not proposition for you. If you have time during your campaign, how about you coming on once a month and staying active with us so that
I'll be glad to, ladies. My pleasure.
be great. Yes.
Oh, one other thing. Some fools are calling me anti-woman because I say women should have our protection. And my motto has been protecting womanhood and promoting manhood.
Yeah, that's
You know what it is for men? We got a job. And manhood's hard because you know what our job is? The next time the Titanic goes down, it's, ma'am, I'm sorry that I've got to just meet you, but you and your child have my seat on this lifeboat. I'll drown with the ship. You see, that's a hard thing, and you have to put that into a boy's head. And women deserve that protection and provision, but some people seem to not like it. But I can't help it. I don't care whether you want me or not.
We can't help stupid, can we?
No. I'm a man. Every woman I see.
Yeah, Ed Waters says rock star.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sorry. Those two things I caused the Democratic Party to lose in 2014. No, you lost because you stole your own money. and you won't deal with it. And do I show any reluctance to back off? Do I show any inclination to back off of saying protecting womanhood and promoting manhood? No, because that's my job as a man. That's
right.
how my father and mother, my grandmothers and my grandfathers and uncles and aunts raised me.
Well, that's my son up there. And
Yeah, I
he's
know.
He's retired Navy. He was married for 25 years.
Yeah.
And then he did end up getting divorced, but he stayed in there till those kids got grown and out there on their own. Because that's the way his mama raised him.
This is true.
And, so now
My
he is.
wife and I were together for 20 years. I understand that. The first, we didn't make it long, but I married her because,
I get it.
For the kid.
Yeah.
And then there was a second one. So, yeah.
I get it.
You have to do it. Some don't understand it. But congratulations, young man, for doing your duty. And congratulations, ma'am, for raising him.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir. All right, then. So, closing comments, and we'll start with my heartbeat of the South.
And we will have lunch tomorrow.
Yes, we will.
We will meet you there.
Okay, I would first like to give Judge thanks for coming by and giving us all this information. You surely we have learned a lot on this program from you. I'm looking forward to you running. You do have my vote. And with that being said, I'd like to thank everybody and wish them love, peace, and happiness. And with that, let's be safe out there.
All
right, ladies.
Jen.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Oh, one more.
Well, I am so honored to meet you, Judge. And I have to say that I have followed you in the public eye for many years, and I've always seen you as a fair, common sense person, and I appreciate that. And I hope the people of Memphis will see and appreciate that for you in your campaign for mayor. And with that said, everyone, please remember your faith, your common sense, and stay safe, please.
All right.
Madam,
Sybil.
thank you very much for that. Now,
Sybil.
Do I have time to read a short poem that I wrote for the judge?
Of course.
Judge Joe Brown. Judge Joe Brown is the man for Memphis mayor. Vote for him because he is a dragon slayer, slaying the dragons of crime in this town. The man to lead Memphis is Judge Joe Brown. His office door is open to citizens that care. Let's all get together and support Judge Joe Brown for mayor. JJB2023.com is his website to donate and volunteer. Vote for Judge Joe Brown in October this year.
All right.
how can we lose with this?
That is something else.
Yes.
A round of applause. So all right. Audience likes that too. All right.
If I can
So,
ever make it to Memphis, I want lunch with all of y'all.
Well, sure.
Okay, that's right. That's
Well,
without a
certainly.
doubt.
Here you go. Let's see.
so-
2 thumbs up. See? 2
Right.
thumbs up. Right.
That's right.
Good one.
So, Judge, your closing comments.
Well, it's not really about me, it's about all of you and the rest of the citizens in this area. It's time for us to take control of our circumstances because it's not going to work unless we do. So I don't like the idea of having to travel to visit grandchildren. I want the kids here and the grandchildren here, and I think we all do too. And I want this to be a place that we continue to be proud of. I've been a loyal Memphian for more than half century. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to die here more likely than not. So let's make it a good place for our posterity and for the future. This is, we sit on a golden opportunity. It's ours to take. It's ours to make. So let's do what we got to do to make it happen for me and you.
All
Oh,
right.
nice sound. I love it.
Great,
All
wonderful.
right. I did tell
Yeah.
everything that everyone has said. I want to give you my personal thanks again. You just been just dynamite on the show tonight. And we appreciate you so much. And with that being said, and we've already agreed that you'll be back at least once a month, all the way up until
You can
election
get me 2
time.
or 3 times a month. I like you ladies. I'd sit
All
here.
Well,
right.
thank
Well,
you.
Yay!
yeah,
Sorry, man. I'm not talking about your mom in a bad way, but
No, no problem. I know it. I know.
grown folk talking.
Hey, that way Tim's not here by himself.
Right.
That's right. Yeah, because he's been the rooster in the hen house for a minute here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's been
Yeah.
the rooster in the hen house, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Ed, for your compliments.
Thank you, Ed.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
all of
you.
our loyal audience members and fans, and those of you who have left. But they will come back and watch on replay, because that's one thing about our shows. They stay there, and we are broadcasting simultaneously right now on 5 different platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Trovo, and Twitch. So it's several places that they can find the show, and they can always go back and look at the broadcast. And so I did to everything that you all have said. I want to thank you again, Judge, for coming to be with us and agreeing to be with us in future shows, all the way up until you are elected. And we definitely want to be there at the inauguration when you do get seated. All right.
Center aisle. Center
Y-
aisle.
Yes,
Sit
for
around.
sure.
Oh.
And
Well,
Emily, I want to say one thing. On Facebook, look at our group. It's Mothers for Judge
Oh,
Joe Brown for Mayor. It's
okay. All
Mothers
right.
for Judge Joe Brown for Mayor. So y'all come on the website and leave your
Mhm.
comments and come on and let's support this man for mayor. Get him voted in.
Yeah. And by the way, on his website, he has a little pop-up box where you guys can. He says, "Do you have a question for me?" He said, "Ask it, and I'll be happy to answer." Now you cannot get it more
Awesome.
transparent than that. You
And I'll
cannot.
tell
You
you
can.
what, if you're
Yes,
on
sir.
Twitter, you can find me at Judge Joe Brown TV. They finally gave
Okay.
me
Okay.
a blue check after 7
They
years.
finally gave you a blue chip. All
Yeah,
right.
Elon Musk sent out a letter on November 9th saying you have till November 9th to come up with a plan. By November 11th, I got my first blue check in 7 years. So,
All right.
yeah,
Yay.
Congratulations. All right. We
yeah.
gotta hear a cheer for
He'll
that
get
one.
shadow blocked. He's been working on that heavy lift booster for NASA for this month. So they've sort of
Yeah.
gone behind his back. He's got to go in and clean up. And by the way, now you're not limited to 280 strokes.
I
It's
know.
just when you get to that, it says more, and you got to get there.
Uh-huh.
But that's an improvement where people get to communicate.
Oh,
So
yeah,
yeah,
Good.
that's good.
Yeah.
let
So
me
I
stop
will.
talking.
I will
When I'm
follow
dealing with
you.
people, I've
I
always
will.
got time for people. I love
Well,
people.
we are talkers. This is why it's a talk show.
Oh
So
yeah.
you're among the same kind. So
Yes.
don't feel like you have to hush on our station. Now I
Uh.
know media, paid stations, they do have their limitations, but that's why I like controlling my own, because I don't have limitations put on me. I don't have to follow anybody's orders. As far as I can't say this and you can't say that, we can say what we want to say, but as long as we say it in a way that we can get around it, it's never what you say; it's always how you say it.
Right.
And and having said that, I will also say my other closing, and all of you guys know what that is, but this is Judge's first time hearing it. Free thought is a philosophy and not a policy. All right. So, you guys out there, my audience members, and you guys that are watching this for the first time, always remember that nobody can put a policy on your mind. Okay. You are born with free thought. It is a philosophy, it is not a policy. All right. All right. Thank
Amen.
you all so much. That's going to be our
Thank
time
you.
for the night. And we love y'all. And Judge will be back. This won't be the last thing you've seen of him, all right?
All right.
So thank
Amen.
you again. Everybody say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
The opinions expressed on this program is not necessarily those of the Emily Pearl Show, its sister stations, its affiliates, or its sponsors, but it is those of the individuals themselves who express it. While the Emily Pearl Show does take stances on individual issues, the show itself remains an entertainment platform. Free thought is a philosophy and not a policy.